makers and then discussions.
So welcome to the, so we have our NGO partners here today. So we're also very excited to hear from you today. So over to you, sir. You can start.
Thank you. Yes, as I said, we're excited to be here and get to know you, but also share what experience we have with various NGOs working with technology. The idea for us is, because we don't know exactly where you stand in that process of using digital and other tech solutions, to give you a pretty broad overview of what's possible in general and specifically for NGOs, kind of give you teasers and ideas, get you excited about the areas, and then we can dive into specific parts that you're interested in some more depth, but starting off more as a broad overview. If you can enable me to share my screen, I'll also throw at the agenda and show you a bit of what we have in mind. But let me start maybe with a short introduction. It's two of us here from Arm Digital, as already mentioned. My name's Sebastian. I'm originally from Germany, lived in India for several years, though worked with NGOs. And out of that combination, really, I'm passionate to use software, which is my other professional background as a software engineer and computer science graduate, to enable organizations like yours to really do your work in an easier and more effective way to reach people and change lives. So combining that and applying it really has been my and our journey for the last years, and we're always happy to learn more about the challenges, but also the opportunities with all your organizations. And complementing that is my colleague Moise. Maybe you want to briefly introduce yourself also.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Moise. I come from the city of Pune in India. And my career trajectory has been extremely diverse and interesting. I started off as an engineer and a business graduate, was working for the corporate. But almost like 12 years back, I took this big shift of moving to the social impact space, and I've been working with multiple NGOs since then. And I then shifted to Germany, and I'm right now working with Sebastian on this Arm Digital project. And I'm really excited to talk to you and also understand in terms of how technology is enabling the social sector in India. So looking forward to our conversation today.
With that, let me switch to screen share, although then I think we see each other a little bit less easily. Just one more sentence about Arm Digital, our case management software platform that we built over the years. As already mentioned in the introduction, we started this off as a volunteer-run initiative, as a nonprofit, and nowadays we have a social enterprise in combination with that to help more NGOs across the world use it. We'll use this as a case study actually to show you what's possible in a more in-depth way to use software in social space. But at its core, what Arm Digital is about is really empowering social sector organizations like yours to be more effective and transparent by having software really not just as an isolated tool for some information manager in the main office, but giving a tool into the hands of each of your field staff also, so they have the information they need to make the right decisions, to give support to the people you serve. Like my colleague here, Fahim, who is talking with a child labor rag picker and trying to bring him back into school. And of course, there's a lot of information around these cases, where the kids are coming to the activities regularly, how their school results are doing, how their health and family situation is. So all of that has its challenge to keep an overview on. And that is just one example in this big field of technology, how software can maybe help you in your daily challenges of work. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail later in this session. So in terms of what we have in mind for the session here, as I said, would like to give you a broad overview of things we have observed and different looks at technology and possible angles of where you could use tools to help yourself, but also going into examples and a bit of the general process. It's not an easy task sometimes to introduce a new technology, a new system. So sharing our insights there and some tips and tricks. But we then also would like to make this an open session, have your experiences and questions in there also, and we can dive deeper into any of these topics or specific tools in between, but especially also after we've given you the overview of our agenda, and then see where this takes us. So to start off, I would like to get you involved also. We're a medium-sized group, but to make this easier, we have a poll with a digital tool. Moise has just shared the link already. If you click on that link, then window in your browser should open. You don't need to log in anything, but you can type words or names of tools that you're already using. It would be interesting to know where you stand with technology, and maybe you can inspire your other NGO partner colleagues also on what's out there. Just put anything that you can think of, whether it's something as basic as WhatsApp or super specialized software. Let's just collect what is out there already. And I'll switch to a few results here also, so you can see live what's happening.
Just wanted to again, we are all filling in this tool. I have shared the link, and we have to just mention what tools you are currently using. This could be a tool, as Sebastian mentioned, for your communication, for impact measurement. It could be any specialized tool that you are already using. The idea for us is to know where we as a group currently are. So I can see Google Docs also, which is really good. Gunjan as a tool, interesting. Let's wait for like another 15 seconds. You have to just type the name of the tool and just hit the submit button. Okay, so I think, Sebastian, these are the tools which they are already using. We can maybe start from here.
Let's leave it at that, maybe. And you can also keep using this link over the next minutes and type something more. We can come back to this also in the end and see if other people have added more and getting the full picture. But let's go on from here now. Now some things start coming in. Great. Let's give you another 30 seconds then, maybe. So social media definitely is a thing that's quite present with Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Great. So if you want to add more here, feel free to. I'll jump back to the presentation here. And actually, before we dive into concrete tools, although that was kind of the starting point in this question to you, I would like to make a few remarks and share some thoughts on why even using technology in the first place. There's a lot of buzz around, oh, everybody needs to be digital, and there's exciting new developments of what's possible technologically. But I would actually make the case technology for its own sake is really not the answer. So what I would recommend is think carefully of what you really need for the core of what you're trying to achieve. Because in the end, all your initiatives are not about the technology and how you do things. It's the impact you achieve, the people you reach, and the lives you improve, or the awareness you create, the environment you improve, whatever it is. But digitalization and technology can always be just a tool, an amplifier of strengthening what's already there. If you have a team that's doing great work and you have a good technology to help them, then they can do even more great work. If you don't have things in place and you don't really know how to achieve your impact, then technology probably just distracts you and makes things more difficult. So I wouldn't think about technology in the first as the first and primary thing, but of course it can be a big helper and enabler. And if you look at tech, also tech for nonprofits and social impact, there's a lot of blog posts and excitement nowadays around artificial intelligence, automating things, the blockchain supposedly making everything more transparent and reliable and fair. And these are super exciting technologies. I did my master's in computer science. I worked on some AI projects. On a technical level, they're extremely fascinating. And also there's some amazing use cases that work very well in practice nowadays. You might use your phone's voice recognition to just speak into your phone to type a message, and that works amazingly reliably nowadays. So there's a lot of interesting applications for that also. But what actually we see almost with any nonprofit that we work with and that I interact with in my network is really the first step to make use of technology is getting the basics, having an information management system maybe that helps you do your daily tasks in an easier way manually, rather than trying to automate everything or use the highest tech possible. So if you start slow, even with just a spreadsheet and structuring the information you need, or starting to use social media and communicating digitally, then that's kind of the building block until which maybe later on you can look at some of those very advanced topics. But the biggest impact, I think, to help you and your work is probably not those hype topics and buzzwords, but solid solutions that are battle tested for daily use. And as I said in the beginning, so maybe we can actually do this as a practical session towards the end also. Think about what problems you actually have. What's the key problem, not what's the best tech solution that you stumble upon. So is the problem getting more funds so you can increase your programs? And then maybe a donor management software can help you with that, but maybe actually the better way is to just to talk to more foundations, and you can do that with all the technology that you already have in place. Or if you don't, if your team is overwhelmed with too much work, maybe you can find a great software that saves time for your team, but maybe also you just should hire another person to help you be more flexible and manage the work. So there's always different approaches, and jumping on a solution that's available probably doesn't necessarily solve your key problems. So start from what you're trying to achieve and what the biggest difficulties there are, and then in a targeted way, maybe search for a solution or think of how tools could help you achieve that in a better way. With that in mind, what I would like to do as the core of this session is give you an overview of various categories of tools you can use, just to kind of give you teasers to think about, and then we can dive into some more specific tools for NGOs and impact measurement also in more detail, because that's the area that we're experts in and that we are personally most excited about also. But there's a lot of other tools around that might, as a first step, actually help you more in your daily work. And thinking about the different tasks you have in an organization, again, opening up this wide field, you might really start thinking with as technology, super basic things that you're probably all using already. Office software, Word, spreadsheets, some graphic designs like Canva or Photoshop. And I've seen people work very effectively just with some Excel sheets. So this might be already the perfect technology for the things you need. And the advantage here is also there's often free versions out there. It's easily available, whether it's Google Docs or LibreOffice as an alternative to Word. That's completely free of cost and easy to use for your whole team. Then, of course, thinking further into internal collaboration, there's a lot of different tools that can help you working in the team. You might be using some of these yet, but maybe also there's things that can streamline your work further. Messaging platforms, a lot of people use WhatsApp. There's also specialized messengers like Microsoft Teams or Slack that help you organize the conversations in your team in a structure, or video calls, as we're doing here already, are probably fairly commonplace. There's tools for file sharing that can synchronize all your documents and folders that you might be using already, Dropbox or also Google Drive to some extent, or Nextcloud as an open source solution. And there's further things like virtual whiteboards. I love to use Miro, for example, where you can put Post-its and different graphics in a very easy way on the screen. And you can collaborate also with the whole team if you sit in different locations. Or you can build wikis, intranets, platforms where your team can update different guidelines and experiences to share among the team. But here always, and we come to that later also, think carefully of what you really need. I've seen a lot of these tools also being introduced and then nobody uses them and they're kind of abandoned. So less is more sometimes here. Think of where you have your challenges. Thinking further, I think a lot of you have put that already in our short poll. Of course, communicating to others outside your organization is a big topic for technology also. Probably most of you have a website, and maybe a remark that I see a lot of NGOs not using so much. If you get your website domain name, then often you can very easily also get email addresses on that name included without extra cost. So that always gives a even more professional picture. Also, if you communicate to other people, not with your personal Gmail address, but maybe with the address that has the organization in the back part of the name, like mine, Sebastian at armdigital.com rather than at Gmail or yahoo.com. So that's an easy win maybe. And then social media, of course, a lot of you are using already. If you are heavy users, there's also other tools that help you use them and post maybe on various platforms. And sending out digital newsletters is also a fairly common point where there's a lot of solutions out there on online platforms that even let you do that for free if you don't have thousands of subscribers. So that's all wider possibilities there. And even for small tasks, there can be small tools that are really helpful. For example, there's things to help you schedule meetings where you can just kind of share different slots in your calendar and people can automatically select and book a time to talk to you, whether that's your beneficiaries or maybe your donors or other partners. And that can save you a couple of emails forth and back that cost everybody a lot of time. So if you have a specific thing that doesn't run smoothly, there might be a small solution out there already for you. Going into the maybe more specific categories of tools that I briefly want to highlight, looking at administration, of course, there's basics like accounting and HR that any corporate also has, and there's complex and lightweight solutions, so you can look around and find the right fit depending on how big your organization is. But there's also specific solutions for nonprofits, like, for example, donor management systems that help you manage all the donations and communications with either the organizations that fund you or the private people that donate to you. CRM systems are these kind of database systems to document all the clients and communication with them that a lot of corporates also use to manage their sales. But of course, there's a significant difference between selling a car and communicating with the donor. So there's specialized systems also for organizations like yours to manage that you can look out for. And then going more into project management, there's a wide range of things you can use, whether it's small to-do list apps or Kanban boards. That might be a term you don't know, but there's like online tools where you can have different columns and then just pull tasks from one stage to another. Maybe you have some tasks in planning and then you move them to doing, and then you will evaluate them, and then maybe you archive them, so you can coordinate within the team in a fairly lightweight task also. Or of course, there's more advanced project management tools that help you do staff planning and scheduling and dependencies between different milestones that you have. Also, there's tools that allow you to even do kind of your own custom applications without actually having to write software code programming. You can click together different screens of information that you want to link to each other. Airtable or ClickUp are examples of that. You might have seen these, and they can give you a pretty customized solution also. But on the other hand, what I see in practice is that often, for simple use cases, this works quite well. But if you have something very specific, then maybe it's easier to find a solution that's already somebody specifically built for the task you're trying to solve, rather than building that up for yourself. Which kind of brings us to the last category. And I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you here. So we'll take a full stop at that also. But apart from all these somewhat general software systems, there's of course also software and technology that's really specifically built around your task of having social impact at the work of nonprofits. And you don't need a specific team messaging platform for your case, probably, but there is software that's really targeted at the core of what you do, helping you maybe do surveys to understand the situation of the communities you work in, and then run another one to do an evaluation of how much you have achieved managing that impact. Or where we are at with Digital, a different approach, having case management that is really on a daily basis, a platform that helps you interact with your beneficiaries and see how things are going, steering your team to provide the best support it can. But also at a higher level, platforms that, if you build theories of change and log frames to really structure how you achieve your goals, then there's platforms that help you with M&Es, monitoring and evaluation, seeing your indicators, your big picture things develop over time, and you can share that very easily with donors or embedded on your website to present what you're achieving. And there's even like more specialized and automated systems that are maybe a bit more into that high-tech area, helping you maybe through a chatbot or an app specifically targeted at the people you're serving, to communicate with them and then possibly reach millions of people rather than just hundreds or thousands that your full-time staff can manage. And that's actually the part that's really specific for nonprofits, and that's very exciting, I think, because it can help you at the core of what you're doing, while all these other things are important enablers to make your life easier overall, but are very comparable to what other corporates are also using. Although I do see a lot of NGOs maybe using less of these general tools than other organizations, and could benefit from some of these here. So as the next step, what we have in mind is showing you a few examples of those social impact technologies, diving a bit deeper into them. But I'll take a short break here also to let you throw in any direct observations or questions to not overwhelm you and steamroll you with too much. If you want, just post it in the chat or just unmute yourself and throw it in. We have time for deep discussion also at the end, though. Or if you want to add anything, Moise, here.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. Thanks, Sebastian. Maybe we can just take this time now to understand more now from the audience about some of the tools that they're already using, because I know in the survey they did mention a lot about external communications, the tools that they've been using. But what is the general understanding about the other tools, and specifically tools for social impact? So if anybody is specifically using such tools, would be good to actually learn from you also, like what kind of tools you are already using and how maybe. So let's use it as a platform to share also with each other. You can just unmute yourself and then share if you would want to.
I think Gunjan, for example, is one of those platforms specifically built for NGOs also that some of you are using. So maybe inspired from this overview, if you have more observations also to add them here, this might be a nice starting point for others also to look at certain things that you found useful so far.
Anyone?
Also answering to Sumaya's question in the chat, maybe this part is actually going towards what you pointed at, technology as in for impact measurement. That's what I would put into that category here of the specific NGO tools, and we would dive a bit deeper into some of these right now. So if there's any other questions, do jump in. Otherwise, I would just move on and we can discuss in a more casual way also at the end of the session. And again, even though we're now looking at the social impact tools, the nonprofit specific tools, there's still a wide range of different solutions out there, and it really depends on what your organization does. It might be environmental protection organization or an awareness raising campaign that deals with millions of people, and there might be small scale community-led programs that interact with just maybe a few dozen families, but very closely, and try to support them in their daily life. So of course, for these different use cases, there's very different solutions. So what I'll do here is give you a bit of an in-depth case study on how the NGO I used to work with in Howrah, a small educational project, adopted a case management solution, Digital, but then also give you a few teasers of these other categories of solutions and how they might look. I'll keep this somewhat brief, and then if you're interested in a specific one of these, we can go further into the discussion based on your feedback. So as I said, in terms of case management, I use this as a bit of also a change management process of how this came to be. I worked with this NGO that is supporting around 200 kids, former child laborers, trying to bring them back into mainstream school They have a team of social workers and teachers providing coaching classes and interacting very closely with the family, supporting them. And initially, we started off with a very basic system. There was a lot of paper form templates that people filled out to admit their child and to record, for the team to record home visits and their observations, and that would be stored in a filing cabinet for each child. We had one spreadsheet that listed all the names of the kids, which worked okay, but also it was really difficult to keep an overview of what's happening in every case. There was a lot of copies of the file, so it was hard to know what's the updated information. And we had several cases where kind of critical developments slipped our mind, kids only coming maybe every second day to school. And then after months of happening, finally we would see accidentally looking at the file that this is a case that we need to intervene. And then sometimes it was already too late, the kid would drop out of school. So what we started doing then is looking around for a solution that helps us manage that information in a more structured way. For a time, we used one of those no-code platforms where you can click together your own app. That worked okay, but it had some limitations. The system didn't work offline, and then our field workers out in the slums couldn't access the information. Sometimes Wi-Fi in the office also would break down. And especially, we recorded a lot of details. So after a few months, we hit the limit of the free version of that tool. And after that, it would have been like 1,000 rupees per user, which was not feasible for that community-led organization. And that's actually looking around for more specific tools that really target how an NGO works and what the environment there is and the difficulties that appear in the day-to-day work. That's how, in the end, Digital came to be, and we started building this solution because we didn't find quite the right fit. But that's another story. I want to stick here with the perspective of you as the social organization. What we did then is, with Digital as a case management solution, bring in a tool that really helps to record much more data. I'll show you in a second. But we also did that step by step. So first introducing basic beneficiary files and then extending to record more details on the families, on the attendance, and so on. But really our goal was to enable the daily process, not just do a survey at the beginning of the year and at the beginning of the next year and then analyze what's happening, but have a tool that helps our whole team on a daily basis. And that's the key premise of case management software, which is not that commonly used yet, but I think a lot of organizations are currently looking at adopting something like that. How this can look in practice here as an example is you have a system beyond just a spreadsheet that really records all your beneficiaries if you're working with individuals, whether that's students you're supporting or maybe families or even whole communities that you're interacting with. And you have them in one place. The whole team has access to an online platform like that, so you don't have to worry about coordinating files and having different copies. That's handled by the technology. And depending on the tools, as I said, these things might be available fully offline also, or help you coordinate and protect the information with different permissions of who can access which part of the details to safeguard sensitive information. And then if you have a case management system here as the point, there's all the key details stored. Sorry, is that a question or?
India's first holistic platform for sexual health.
Can you mute yourself?
We are honored to have Dr. Rita Sham with us. Dr. Rita Sham is the integrative psychiatrist, the board-certified clinical sexologist, and sexual medicine specialist from USA. She's a excellent intimacy coach and the addiction specialist. She is the only woman psychiatrist in sexual medicine.
I just request.
I think that's background noise, right? Okay. Sorry about that. So thinking about a software system that helps you in your daily work, like this case management, there's all this information, like a profile of the beneficiary you support, that involves like demographics that maybe you need for analysis and evaluation, but also stuff like contact numbers, things your team just needs on a daily basis to have things at hand. But then the interesting point is you can really link a lot of information to it, and that's something that becomes difficult without a specific technology. There might be a lot of different things coming together. So in the example of an educational use case, there might be attendance in whatever coaching activities you provide, or maybe also the school attendance, and having that link to the individual student, but also to the group, can give you an indication of analysis. You can drill down to the individual days or a monthly overview. But also, if you have specialized tools, often there's different modes of interacting with it. So Digital, for example, can allow you to have your team use a mobile phone also to record things. So they could find their class and then do a roll call digitally rather than on paper in the attendance register, as a lot of you might be used to. And again, there's different processes. You can handle this with different tools. The advantage of having a specialized tool is that maybe you need to do less manual steps, and you can really get your whole team to use it, while systems that are more complex often have the challenge that just a few people in your team will know how to use them. And that makes it more difficult to really have a smooth process that empowers everybody to do their work. But with this use case of Helgo that I was sharing, teachers nowadays are recording attendance on their smartphones directly from the classroom. So as soon as they reach the end of the list in the morning, that information automatically goes into the database and is available for the whole team, including the social workers. They can see that not only in the individual student's profile, but there's also a dashboard then that helps you analyze and highlight these critical developments. For example, presenting which students have missed more than one class in the last week. And then your team can follow up and really plan the interventions and the activities. And that's the interesting part. There's two levels of using digitization for daily work, whether it's through case management or surveys or other digital tools. Hopefully you can plan better in the team of what's necessary. And then also you can use that to evaluate and run a big impact report, show your donors how many people you have reached. But especially streamlining the daily work can also really change the way you work. So for Helgo in India, in Howrah, this got them from maybe 4 to 6 weeks until they followed up with the family if the kid didn't come to school anymore, to now within a day or two, a social worker calling up and figuring out what's wrong. So they can also provide very different support in that case. And that's the part where technology can really be exciting to help you lift things to the next level. I don't want to stick too much to this one. So there's other angles you can document, of course, whether it's reporting notes of what has happened in interaction with the student, or tracking health, maybe analyzing which kids are malnourished, and similar to attendance, automatically highlighting the critical cases. But as an example of how you can not digitize your operations in the sense that you'll only talk through video call and WhatsApp with the people you're trying to support, but digitize the internal workings and helping your team coordinate. This is maybe an example that I could talk a lot longer, but I'll stop to have time to look at other points as well. So case management as one example of really going to the core of what nonprofit is doing with digital technologies while still working offline directly in person with the people. Another part that I mentioned before, there's specialized systems that help you manage your interactions with donors. There's various ones. This is an example of CVCRM, which is an open source solution. So it's freely available. You need somebody helping you with the technical setup initially, but then this is low cost, but also by NGOs and other foundations around the world, maintained and extended. And it's really built for nonprofits managing interactions with their donors, tracking who has contributed what, and maybe providing donation receipts and things like that. So a lot of the things that maybe a corporate system wouldn't have by default, you can always configure things, of course, is already tailored to your need as a nonprofit here, possibly. And this would be one case. We can go deeper into this. I'll just leave it here as a teaser, and we can come back to that. Another aspect that's maybe going to impact evaluation and measurement that was mentioned before, as an example of a M&E software, Tola Data. We're working with them in some cases. It's an interesting combination also of various software. So in the case of Tola Data, for example, a lot of organizations use one tool to collect data, whether it's a survey process, Google Forms, or there's a specialized tool, Kobo Toolbox, that allows offline surveys also, or a tool like Digital Case Management to record daily data. And then they use a separate system that's specialized on the monitoring and evaluation, and they can integrate these. They can use the data from the surveys in the monitoring and evaluation system, and that goes very well hand in hand and gives you full power of different things you need to achieve. So what these M&E systems are doing is they help you structure your theory of change, how you achieve impact. You can kind of design different dependencies of your various goals and outputs that you want to measure. That helps you also plan and structure things and communicate them. And then you can track the progress and the concrete indicators coming in there. You can record them by hand, or as I said, you can integrate other software systems through which these come. And then you can see how you're doing towards your targets, where maybe you need to put more attention in, but also maybe you have agreed with some funding partner that you'll achieve this and that, you'll reach that many people overall, and then you have your targets in here and see how you progress towards them for you internally, but then also you can share these with the outside world to really demonstrate that you're achieving big things and get more support. And as a last short teaser here, Glyphic is a platform specifically built for NGOs also, that allows you to communicate with beneficiaries through WhatsApp. So you can design kind of a chatbot, an automated message system, and then send that out to, say, students you want to coach and help find the right career path for them. It's one of the examples how Glyphic is used. And then any beneficiary can just use WhatsApp, which often people are already using, so you don't need to get them to sign up on a new website or download a new app. And they can chat with the bot. There's an automatic reply, and you can provide different content and pointers, but you also get the statistics, and you can see, talking to a lot of people in an automated way, what are the answers, what details and questions are people most interested in, so you can really go into this data analytics details. And Glyphic is not the only platform for this kind of chatbot system, as actually none of the examples that I showed before is for their category. But Glyphic is one that's really specifically built for NGOs. So they, for example, also provide a lot of consulting and support for NGOs to really tune the things towards the things they want to achieve. So you're not left alone with a very technical system and need to figure out how to do that. But you get hand-holding and people that are on the same side. They really want to help you achieve impact. And I think that's an important factor, also working with technology providers and supporters. There's a lot of foundations also offering workshops and capacity building, maybe like this one, maybe also more in depth. But you often have two options: just signing up for something and managing yourself, which works well if it's a simple use case, or working closely with somebody. And then always it helps, of course, to understand your context and the challenges that you have in your specific environment as a nonprofit. With that, I'll stop now throwing various topics and solutions at you, and instead hand over to Moise to try to wrap this up, maybe on a bit more procedural and change management perspective. You've seen a lot of options, so the question, of course, is how do you come to a decision? What should you adopt? And there's definitely also challenges in getting your whole organization, all your team, using new technology if you decide for one. So Moise can maybe share a bit of the perspective on that, and then we can come back to an open discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sebastian. So we started this discussion by talking about what are the technological tools you are already using, and then Sebastian shared with us the 6 categories of the tools, and then we have now seen the 3 examples. So certainly, I think as a group we are much more aware now in terms of what are the possibilities. But having worked in the social sector, been in the same shoes as you are, maybe, I know what challenges which an organization faces. So in the remainder of the session, let's try to discuss and share some of the challenges that we have faced, and what is the decision-making process. I will also share with you some ideas which will really help you to evaluate tools also. But let's try to make it much more interactive. I'll go forward. I have actually a couple of questions to begin with. I'm sharing with you the first question in the chat. Maybe similar thing that like we did for the first thing. If you can just click on this and then just share with us in terms of have you in your current organization, do you also have some budgets which you use to procure such software? And this I'll tell you why I'm asking this question, because the next question is actually linked to this. So maybe we can just quickly take 30 seconds. If you can just click on the link that I've shared in the chat, and would really love to know in terms of at an organization level, how do you look at procuring these tools? So the first question is, do you have any specific budgets that you use for procuring any tools? Let's see. As you can see, there are 4 options. First is there's no money at all. Second is there is no specific budget, but you have a desire to spend. The third option is the technology that can fit into your monitoring and evaluation. You have some budget for it. Maybe if you are already there at that stage, just select that as an option. The last one is you have a dedicated IT software tech budget that you are using in your organization.
And I mean, there's approaches and solutions to use technology for each of these categories. So it will be interesting also to think along these angles in the further discussion.
So you have to just select one option. I hope you are able to access this, and just click submit.
I hope all of the participants are able to see the poll. Please click on that and submit your response, and let's make this interactive.
I hope the question is also clear. If there are any questions, just please feel free to unmute and ask the question. I can certainly say that at least you'll be fitting into one of the bucket. You can say that we have no budget at all, or you are already engaging with an IT team in your organization. Would love to know what your current status is. Okay, we are getting few responses. Right, let's wait for 5 seconds. So like majority of you are saying that there is no specific budget at all, which I completely understand. I think this is the reality of many organizations. There is no dedicated budget, largely because there are multiple reasons, and maybe we will talk about it in the subsequent slides as well. But few of you also feel that you can have some budget for the M&E part. So let's have a second question. I'm again continuing this discussion. And there's another question that I would like to know in terms of what are the challenges that we face. I'm posting the link again in the chat. Maybe if you can just let us know what are some of the challenges that you face in terms of using technology, or what are some of the challenges that you anticipate. So let's hear the what is really like the key barrier for organizations, for NGOs to adopt technology tools. Again, I've shared a link. If you would like to just answer this, again, as I said, this is more for us to get into a conversation. So just feel free to share what you really feel or what you really anticipate or what you have already faced the challenges when using a tech tool in your organization. Okay, I'm already seeing few answers are being put over there. Let's take 30 seconds. Yeah, I can see Sintu has also answered in the chat, which is generally NGOs do not have conceptual clarity regarding the utility. Nice.
Thanks for contributing that. Feel free to put it in the chat also if that's more comfortable for you.
Okay, I see team motivation as something which has come out on multiple occasions, even in my personal experience, first-hand experience working. Lack of conceptual clarity is another important part, as well as no specific planning and budget is allocated for that. Yeah, thanks, Sintu, for sharing those inputs. And I see, okay, there are a few more answers now. Clarity of utility, didn't have time so far, team motivation. Let's take another 10 seconds maybe, as we are still seeing people fill in the responses.
I'm also adding the ones that I see in the chat here, abbreviated.
Okay. Right. No full-time staff. Yes, it's a big problem. Like many organizations, working in a projectized environment, it is very difficult to have a dedicated staff who would look into the tech tools and its adoption. Budget becomes a barrier. As we've seen in the previous question, most of the organizations said over here that they don't have the budget. CSR funds avoid paying for any other thing apart from the core work that you are doing. A valid problem.
Yeah, and the maintenance cost is also an interesting one that I see from the technological perspective, from the tech side. That's definitely something to be wary of. Also, some organizations think of building their own systems, but then they need to also have the technical expertise to maintain them. On the other hand, if you sign up for a system that requires a monthly, yearly fee, you need to have a budget for it every year.
Yeah, but if you largely try to categorize the responses that we are getting, it starts first with there's a lack of information, so there is no general awareness about what is possible. So it starts from there. Two, then there are no, so there's this lack of desire to actually use it. So there's lack of awareness. but there's also lack of desire. People don't know what are the benefits. The team motivation becomes a challenge. There's a lack of knowledge about what are some of the tools. That is specifically what we are trying to do in the session. We're trying to give you more, like provide some knowledge about what are the possible options, but there's a lack of knowledge, and there's lack of resources to ensure that there is enough like funding available to actually use a new system, adopt it, and also maintain it. Thanks for sharing those interesting inputs. Maybe we can go back to our presentation and just look at some of the solutions that I feel would be interesting for you as organizations to actually evaluate some of the options. So as you can see, there are 3 broad criteria which we can look at. So whenever you come across this question, are we in that position to really adopt a tool? This is assuming that you have faced a challenge, which I know most of the NGOs face it. I mean, let's be clear, like ultimately we know we are working in such challenged environments. We really want to see the impact. We really want to scale our innovation as well. But there is either lack of funds or lack of knowledge in terms of doing it. So once you have done some basic level of study, trying to understand what are the options, it's extremely important to ask this question to yourself, like, is this technological tool that you are right now thinking of, is it trying to fill in an existing gap? Is it really able to meet your needs today? How user-friendly it is? Because as someone just shared in the previous question, team motivation and resistance actually comes from there, because either the team is not motivated, there's a big resistance to change your existing practice. And that we have seen even at a personal level. I can say, so if you are used to a particular way of operating, and suddenly someone is asking you to change the way you look at data, change the way you interact with your beneficiaries, it's a mindset shift, right? Like people are trying to get into a new way of operating. So the least that you can do is give a very complicated tool for your team to actually start using it. So very important, is it user friendly? Data becomes extremely important. If there are, especially in the social impact space with the tools that we just shared, you would be working with a lot of data which might be sensitive. So be very clear in terms of how it is addressing your data security concerns. So these are the questions that you would like to look at in the present context in terms of your needs and in terms of how it is really helping. And there could be many other things, and feel free to just unmute and share if there are something else that you feel is important in the present context when you look at the tools. I'll just quickly take a 5-second pause over here, but if there are not, then I can move forward. The 5-second pause. Do you see any other challenge in terms of evaluating your current needs? If not, you have to also look at your future needs. Like, okay, you have secured some funding, maybe a donor was interested to do it. I mean, I have seen that in my personal case also. In one of our intervention, when I was working with the city education department, we got a donor who was willing to put in the money for this. So we were working with a team of 50 teacher mentors. The donor said, okay, I'll give you a tablet for each of the mentors. So we used it, but what was the future needs? I mean, did we like anticipate what was it in the future? So how easily can your solution evolve is extremely important to check. Can it integrate with the existing tools? Maybe if you're intervening with your beneficiary, there are other tools in the system. You are already using some of the existing tools. So how easy it is for you to integrate it with your existing system? How much investment would it really take for you to not only improve the solution, but also in the adoption? And how strong is the community? Like if you're evaluating a tool, how strong is the community? Are you confident that this tool that you are there's enough knowledge available around it, organizations who have already used it? So how is the community of users and partners around the technology, so that you also feel comfortable in terms of doing it? I think that's how you have seen a lot of tools evolve, because there is this growing community of users who keep contributing into this ecosystem of using a particular technological tool and approach. So that is for the future, looking at the future. And obviously the most important part where a breakdown happens is if you really have to invest, you are investing a lot of time and resources in using a new tool. So you need to also know what is the setup cost, the licensing cost, and the maintenance cost. I think that is something that also came up in the questions earlier, like in the discussions earlier, like how are we even looking at the maintenance of this particular solution. So these are broad frameworks, I would say, that look at your present, future, as well as the cost implications when you are thinking of any tech tools. I would like to take a pause over here and would like to hear from you all, like how have you, like in your current, there were organizations who have already used it in this group, who have already used few tools. So how did you like evaluate some of the tools that you are currently using? Can we make it a little more interactive and just share some of the responses from your side? Like how have you really evaluated tools? If not, maybe then we can just quickly move the discussion forward, Sebastian.
Hello.
Okay, someone is wanting to say, okay.
Yeah, hi Moise. Actually, I'm Sintu from Krishi Vikas organization. So actually, before this organization, also in this organization, what I have seen is generally, as I also share in the chat box, organizations, especially NGOs, they don't have the clarity regarding the utility of technology and how it can enhance the overall quality as well as impact that the NGOs is doing. So that is one part, not having conceptual clarity.
Exactly.
So if they don't have conceptual clarity, so it is very difficult to assess and evaluate how it will fit our any existing gap and also future needs. The second part is with regards to pricing also. So some of the NGOs they seems to try exploring different solutions, technological solutions to meet some kind of existing gap. But during that process, they don't know which of the vendor, which of the technological solution provider is the most appropriate for their particular need. And as you mentioned, budget is also a constraint regarding many of the organization. But I think that can be managed somehow. And if the organization is working somehow with few of the projects, then the budget that comes, the pricing which involves technological solutions to buy the solutions, I think that can be worked out by including in the during proposal drafting of itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing those points into, and we would be discussing that in the next slide also.
Yeah.
I also see Mr. Arun Gupta, you have unmuted. Do you have any point to add?
I'll carry on for the moment. I might have few things because technology in our NGO is a very important need, and we wanted it custom built. We created the whole requirement specification and things and everything. But eventually, kind of to get that done, you need some kind of a commitment where you can kind of build it. And then you can kind of, because there will be changes and there will be things and you have to continue to maintain it, right? So it's a full-fledged project. Now, typically when you do that, you first of all need a large project. So we have a project where we want to impact millions of, say, young girls, right? That scale. And that basically requires that kind of a tracking because it involves hundreds of thousands of schools and then the girls studying there, right? And we are typically looking at, so we got selected in Facebook Accelerator, right? And we worked with T-Hub and companies like Verdentum and others, and we wanted to build something which is a huge need. And we're just kind of trying to work with, so that's not relevant right now, but I think that we can probably kind of discuss offline with you guys and kind of see what our requirements are, what do we want to build, and probably we can discuss what is the best way to kind of develop something like that, which kind of caters to a customized solution rather than something which is available. Most of the time that doesn't work for us because otherwise you use all these scattered small different kind of COTS software available and you try to just make this happen somehow, right? So that's what we, I think, which is not really the point right now. So that's why I'm just keeping quiet.
But I think these are important points, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So maybe, sorry.
Yeah, adding to what Arun just said, this customization is a big challenge.
Mhm.
Generally, normally, the vendor they offer various solutions that are pre-designed as per their जो भी है उनका visualization उस तरीके से. But whenever any NGO approach them for some kind of customization, then pricing goes extremely higher. That is also one of the challenge.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more with you. Like, that is where I think the entire challenge ultimately, see, it comes down to you first understanding what is your need. What is that? क्या देख रहे हो फिलहाल? How do you really want to use this tool to bridge a gap? So that is very important, that you should know exactly where you are coming from. What would really help you to reach your desired state? So what is that? And then ultimately it comes down onto your budgets, and budget may be kya hota hai, it shouldn't be like one time, because you have to look at the next 5 years. So that's very, very important. And also just picking up here from on some of the things that you just shared. So Sebastian, if you can just go forward in this slide. And
maybe also adding to that custom build, just another thought. I think, yeah, it's very well fits here. And it really depends on your organization. As a smaller or medium-sized organization, probably the expense, and as you said, the maintenance is the biggest part of that, is really dangerous and difficult to build a custom system. And as a small organization, you probably just want to use something off the shelf that's available, maybe custom built for NGOs, but for a lot of them, as a large project, it might be very valuable to have a really tailored solution to your need. And there's a scale between that. Like there's some very fixed solutions. There's solutions, talking about Arm Digital, it has a platform, but then you can configure a lot of the things, which data you really want to maintain. The workflows are the same, but you can customize it on that level, and that doesn't require a software developer. So that's also comparatively easy and cheap. And then you can build your own solution either completely from scratch, or maybe what's useful then is also looking at existing tools. There's, I don't know whether open source is a term you're aware of. There's a lot of software systems that are freely available, not just as a system to use, but also the code base, the development, the technology. So there might be things that are similar, but not exactly what you need. And you can find partners that can build on top of that, so that you don't have to do everything yourself, but just few parts. So this is a very technical discussion. Maybe if you'd like, we can have that offline separately. But yeah, there's a whole range of options, once again, I would say.
Yes, I think what you say is very important in the sense, because I think one of the biggest thing is to get the right partner who understands that. So typically NGOs work in a different kind of environment, and for them to get a right partner who understands that these people will be fund constrained, and somewhere also partner with them in the sense, because eventually that money is going to come from either the donors or the CSR funds, right? For them also to understand, because see, one thing is we are in an environment today where NGOs, if they are not adopting technology more and more, they'll start struggling more and more, because there's a lot of focus on the companies for transparency and from trying to see what the impact is, right? And for that, one needs to have very good data management system, which even to the extent that we are trying to build, where we can provide real-time data. So today we do some camp, and all the number of beneficiaries one can see there itself, because that brings in the confidence of the companies who will give you CSR funds to kind of invest in you. Otherwise, it will become more challenging for NGOs who kind of shy away from this, or who believe that they can continue to work with the traditional systems, right? So that is one part of it. That's the message for all the non-profits, to be adopting technologies in a faster manner and going for it, and keeping some budgets and expertise for that. And also, I think what you said is absolutely right in terms of getting the right partners who can kind of help you identify the available suits and available systems, and then kind of integrating and building it in a way and tailoring it in a way which, without much investments and I believe one more thing I would like to say is that I think there's also a need for, say, partners like you, like technology partners, to kind of work with NGOs in a way where the initial cost is certain limited, and when they then approach the CSR companies more and more, there's a component built it into what the project reports to kind of ask for that money, where these systems can be continuously maintained. And so it's very important that technology companies and the non-profits actually become partners in this space and then continue that way. But that's what I think, which will actually help adoption of technology and transparency and everything, and create more what is it, efficiency and effectiveness in the system more and more over time. But okay, which
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Arun, for this, for sharing your thoughts. I completely agree in terms of how things should go forward. So maybe in the interest of time, let me just quickly move forward, just to wrap up this discussion that we are having. So what I really wanted to also share, as discussed right now, is it's important for us to understand this is the right solution for you, and this can only come in once you have spoken to organizations who have already done that. So talking to them, getting inputs from them, understanding which are those possible options, requesting for a demo call. I think most of the time that is where most of the organizations just shy away. Just approach organizations, ask for a demo. Over here, I just wanted to share a few things, maybe, and you are already aware, but this digital public good, so there's this alliance. So digital public goods, it's an open source software where organizations who are providing this open source software and open data and open AI models, they are able to actually provide this in order to meet the sustainable development goals. So this is the registry. I will also share that in the link. So maybe Sebastian has already done that. Feel free to go on this link. You will see a list of organizations that are part of the Digital Public Good Alliance, which are providing these open source softwares. And we are also a part of the Digital Public Good Registry. Just have a look in terms of which are the different organizations that are doing it, and reach out to them and ask for, ask them to explain their solution, and also ask for a demo call. Apart from that, I think most of the organizations in India is already aware about the big tech community. There are many softwares that are already listed. Sebastian has just shared the list in the link in the chat box. Just if you have not been there, just go there and actually check the list of organizations. There are many organizations that provide software at a discounted rate for NGOs. Reach out to those organizations and check what kind of offers they can give, because ultimately, see, you should be very clear that organizations that are working in the social impact space are here to create and help you achieve the social impact. So there are certainly better price offers that you can negotiate with the organizations over here. So those are the things that I quickly wanted to discuss. Lastly, that I would like to just talk about is the entire thing about how do you adopt and onboard your team. And it is actually a change management exercise where you need to know that anybody who is using a new tool is going through multiple levels of initial resistance to actually getting to know a solution, to actually start using it on a regular basis. So you need to really plan ahead and also plan what kind of resistance you might get during the entire process. Identifying champions, we all know, we all do it for engaging externally with our beneficiaries to identify champions. But adopting technology, similarly, you have to follow a similar process internally also, where you need to identify who are those key team members in your organization who would be willing to test out a solution. So those champions are the ones who would help your other team members to adopt and use the system regularly. And afterwards, once it is there, it becomes a routine. But the initial process where there is stage where there's a lot of resistance, that's when you actually need to build champions within your team who would then help your other team members through peer support and get everybody onboarded. So a Rogers curve of adoption works here as well. You have to identify your early adopters and then work with them, and slowly but surely your other team members will slowly come on board. So that's the thing that I wanted to share briefly. I know we had to rush a lot in the last few things, but if there are any questions, let's go, and maybe this is the time if you have any questions for Sebastian and for me, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, and I think we just have a few minutes, but we had a nice discussion in between also. So I'll just jump to the end also here. Do unmute and ask now, but we're very happy to take this conversation further also. If you want to talk about anything in particular without directly, informally, reach out. This is Moi's email address. I'll post that here also. We're happy, to
I'll do that.
Continue this.
Thank you so much, Sebastian and Moise, for this insightful session. It was wonderful to have you guys. And you're doing a fantastic job, building Arm Digital. I think time and again, we have been talking about the importance of technology in the development sector. And I hope that all of the NGO partners have benefited from this session. We will be sharing the mail ID and the LinkedIn profile of Arm Digital, with you guys. And please feel free to connect with the team, in case of adopting technology there. And thank you so much for being a part of the session. And we will keep you posted about the upcoming sessions. Do join it. These sessions are conducted for you. So please make the best use of it. Right. And thank you so much, for being a part of this session. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
So much. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you all. Have a good weekend.